Chapter 1, The Call to War. The holographic image of High Chancellor Orvik flickered inside the war chamber of the Terran Liberation Fleet. His once pristine ceremonial robes were disheveled, his face lined with desperation. Behind him, the Galactic Council's Grand Chamber, once a place of smug diplomacy, was in chaos. Alien leaders of different species shouted over one another, their voices a blend of panic and barely concealed disdain. Commander Adrian Voss sat at the head of the war table, leaning back in his chair, arms crossed. His sharp gray eyes studied Orvik with a mix of amusement and contempt. "We require your assistance, humans," the Chancellor stammered. Silence followed. Voss exchanged glances with his officers, allowing the tension to simmer. Then he exhaled through his nose, a smirk playing on his lips. "Let me get this straight," he said, his voice calm, deliberate. "The Galactic Council, the same council that branded us barbarians, denied us access to core trade routes, and enslaved our colonies, now comes to us for help?" Orvik clenched his jaw. "This is not the time for past grievances. The Viathar have already consumed 6 star systems. Their fleets are endless. Our defenses are collapsing. We have no choice but to beg," Voss finished for him. The Chancellor flinched but held his composure. Voss leaned forward, his voice dropping to something darker. "You called us weak. Unworthy of your enlightened society. When we fought back, you bombed our worlds. Now you want our fleet?" A reptilian senator in the background hissed. "This is not the time for petty grudges, human." Voss's smirk vanished. His fingers tapped the steel table. "Petty grudges? We bled for centuries under your rule. Our people still wear the scars. And now, when death knocks on your door, you suddenly remember we exist." General Reynard Duval, Voss's second-in-command, stepped forward, voice measured. "How bad is it, really?" Orvik hesitated, then sighed. A new hologram appeared, footage of the Viathar swarm in action. The room fell into stunned silence. Towering biomechanical constructs tore through planetary defenses like paper. Ships, once the pride of the Council's fleets, were overrun in seconds. The Viathar didn't just destroy, they assimilated, twisting fallen ships into grotesque extensions of their own. Civilian worlds burned, their populations screaming as dark tendrils consumed them. "They are unstoppable," Orvik admitted. "If they reach the core systems, nothing will be left." Duval exhaled, rubbing his temples. "Hell." Voss watched, jaw tight. He had seen war, but this was something else. A choice hung over them. Humanity had rebuilt itself from the ashes, clawing its way back from subjugation. Now they had power. They could let the Council burn, let the same species that once enslaved them be devoured by the monsters they couldn't stop. But something nagged at him. "What do you offer?" Voss finally asked. The Council chamber stirred. Orvik straightened, sensing the shift. A seat at the table. Full recognition. Trade rights. The oppression ends. Voss raised a brow. "And after we win?" Silence. Voss's lips curled. "You still fear us, don't you? Even now, when you're on your knees, you wonder if we'll become the next threat." Orvik didn't deny it. Voss sighed, rubbing his chin. He didn't trust them. He never would. But the Viathar swarm wasn't just a threat to the Council, it was a threat to everyone. He turned to his officers. "Prepare the fleet." Duval hesitated. "You sure?" Voss exhaled. "This isn't about saving them. It's about making sure we're not next." He turned back to the Chancellor. "We'll fight." He leaned in, eyes cold. "But make no mistake, this time, we're calling the shots." Orvik nodded stiffly. The transmission cut. Voss stood, looking at the hologram of the Viathar swarm, watching as another world fell. For centuries, the galaxy called humanity weak. Now, it was time to prove them wrong. Chapter 2, The Battle of the Devoured Worlds. The Terran Liberation Fleet emerged from hyperspace into a graveyard. Where once stood the proud Siphon system, a thriving sector of the Galactic Council, now lay the wreckage of war. Charred husks of battleships drifted like corpses in the void. Cracked planetary remains floated in eerie silence, stripped of life. The Viathar swarm had been here. And it had left nothing behind. Commander Adrian Voss stood at the bridge of the TFS Revenant, watching the ruins through the viewport. Even for a man who had seen the worst of war, this was something else. "Sensors?" he asked, eyes locked on the battlefield. Lieutenant Arya Cade scanned the readings. Energy signatures are erratic. Some of these wrecks still have active cores, but nothing organized. No survivors detected. Yet, Voss murmured. The Viathar never left the battlefield empty for long. General Reynard Duval stepped beside him. This was a council stronghold. A full fleet and planetary defenses. And they still got wiped out. Voss studied the carnage. The council's arrogance had cost them dearly. Their forces had relied on brute force, massive armadas meant to overwhelm. But the Viathar didn't play by their rules. They didn't attack, they consumed. They never had a chance, Voss said. A sharp ping rang from the sensors. "Contact." Cade called out. Multiple, no, hundreds, dropping out of subspace. Voss's stomach tightened. Here they come. The Viathar swarm poured in like a tidal wave. Monstrous biomechanical warforms, pulsing with eerie, green bioluminescence, twisted into the battlefield. Their ships were not ships, they were alive, shifting and pulsating, covered in jagged exoskeletal plating. Some still bore remnants of assimilated council vessels, their hulls reshaped into grotesque extensions of the swarm. Voss didn't hesitate. All ships, defensive formations. Fire at will. The Terran Liberation Fleet roared to life. Cannons ignited the void, beams of plasma and railgun slugs tearing into the Viathar advance. Explosions rippled across the darkness, but the swarm barely flinched. Their ships morphed, wounds sealing as they adapted. They're repairing almost instantly, Cade warned. Voss had expected this. Humanity wasn't stronger than the Viathar, they were smarter. Deploy the decoys, he ordered. Dozens of hollowed-out ships, stripped of life support and filled with volatile fuel, launched into the battlefield. The Viathar, detecting organic presence, rushed to assimilate them. The moment they latched on, Voss gave the command. Detonate. A chain reaction ripped through the swarm. Fire and debris erupted in massive waves, sending the Viathar reeling. Duval let out a low whistle. Gotta love human ingenuity. But the battle wasn't won yet. From the center of the swarm, something massive stirred. A Viathar harbinger, larger than any battleship, its form an amalgamation of assimilated worlds, its hull lined with twisted remnants of planetary cores. It pulsed with an unnatural hum, its presence sending a ripple through the battlefield. "What the hell is that?" Cade whispered. The answer came as a beam of energy obliterated an entire Terran warship in a single shot. Voss clenched his jaw. A problem. The Harbinger wasn't just a warship. It was a command node. It directed the swarm, adapted their strategies. And now, it had marked humanity as a priority target. Concentrate all fire on that thing. Voss ordered. Missiles, cannons, railguns, every available weapon tore into the Harbinger. But the creature absorbed the energy, its form shifting as it learned from each attack. Then, it responded. A pulse shot out, an EMP wave so powerful it disabled half the fleet in an instant. Lights flickered. Consoles sparked. Ships lost control. The TFS Revenant shook violently. Systems failing. Cade shouted. Shields at 12%. Communications disrupted. Duval gritted his teeth. We're sitting ducks. Voss's mind raced. They had one shot at this. If they didn't kill the Harbinger, the swarm would overrun them. And there was only one way to do it. Reroute all remaining power to the main cannon, Voss ordered. Cade spun around. That'll overload the core. Do it. The ship groaned as energy surged into the Revenant's prototype rail cannon, a weapon humanity had never tested in live combat. Target locked, Cade said, voice tight. The Harbinger turned toward them. Its maw split open, a pulsing core preparing to fire. Now! Voss roared. The Revenant fired. A beam of compressed plasma and hyper-accelerated tungsten ripped through the void, piercing the Harbinger's core before it could react. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the entire Harbinger convulsed. A high-pitched screech echoed through space. Cracks split across its body. Then, it exploded in a shockwave of biomechanical carnage. The Vaether swarm hesitated. For the first time, they broke formation. And humanity did what no species had ever done. They made the swarm retreat. The battle was over. For now. Chapter 3, The Knife in the Dark. The silence after battle was always the loudest. The TFS Revenant drifted through the wreckage of war, its hull scarred from the fight. Crew members scrambled to repair systems, extinguish electrical fires, and stabilize life support. The bridge, though operational, smelled of burnt circuits and sweat. Commander Adrian Voss stood at the viewport, watching what remained of the Vaether swarm retreat into deep space. The impossible had happened, humanity had broken them. But he wasn't celebrating. Status, he asked. Lieutenant Arya Cade wiped a smudge of soot from her cheek and checked her display. Fleet damage is extensive. 14 ships lost, another 9 barely holding together. Power grids are stabilizing, but our shields are gone. We need repairs. General Reynard Duval exhaled. We won. But damn, it cost us. Voss turned to face them. What about the Council? Cade tapped her controls. The Galactic Council fleet, which had hung back during the battle, was approaching. Their ships, pristine and untouched, moved into formation. They're hailing us, Cade said. Put them through. The hologram of High Chancellor Orvik appeared once more. This time, there was no panic. No desperation. Just cold calculation. Congratulations, Commander Voss, Orvik said smoothly. Your species has proven itself useful after all. Voss narrowed his eyes. You sound disappointed. Orvik offered a tight smile. Not at all. We are grateful for your assistance. Now that the threat has been neutralized, we can discuss the integration of the Terran fleet into the Galactic Council's command structure. Duval let out a sharp laugh. Come again? Orvik clasped his hands. The Vaether swarm was a common enemy. Now that we have defeated them, it is only logical that humanity takes its proper place, under the guidance of the Council. Voss felt his pulse slow. Not from surprise. From understanding. They never intended to keep their promise. They had let humanity bleed for them, let them take the brunt of the Vaether's wrath, only to reassert control the moment the battle was over. He should have seen it coming. You're joking, Duval said, voice edged with disbelief. Orvik's expression remained neutral. It is not a request. You and your fleet will stand down. Your forces will be absorbed into the Council's hierarchy. Refusal will be met with necessary measures. The words sent a pulse of heat through Voss's veins. Necessary measures. A threat. Cade's hands curled into fists. They're powering weapons. Voss didn't need to look. He already knew. They were outnumbered. Weakened from battle. The Council had waited until they were at their lowest to betray them. Cold, calculated treachery. A slow smirk spread across Voss's face. You really think we didn't plan for this? For the first time, Orvik's confidence flickered. Voss turned to Cade. Send the signal. She pressed a button. A brief transmission burst into the void, coded, brief, and lethal. A moment later, the war zone changed. From the debris fields, from the wreckage of damaged Terran ships, a second fleet decloaked. Stealth cruisers. Ghost frigates. A hidden strike force that had waited for this moment. The Council had played their hand. And now, humanity played theirs. Orvik's composure shattered. What is this? Voss stepped forward. His voice was quiet, but it carried absolute finality. You always assumed we were stupid. That we'd just take your deal and bow. He gestured at the fleet. That was your mistake. The Council ships hesitated. Their captains, so used to domination, had never feared humans before. They feared them now. Voss turned to Duval. What do you think? Duval cracked his knuckles. I think it's time we settled the score. Voss faced Orvik one last time. This is how it works now. We're not your servants. We're not your pawns. The days of the Council ruling over humanity are over. Orvik's face twisted with rage. You dare. No, Voss interrupted. We win. He made a sharp gesture. The first shot fired was human. The rest followed in a storm of fire. And the Galactic Council learned what it meant to underestimate humanity.